The worst thing anyone ever called me wasn't a liar. It wasn't selfish. It wasn't a failure. It was an unfit mother. And my ex-husband's new wife made sure everyone heard it. She stood in the middle of my daughter's 11th birthday party, smiling as if she was doing everyone a favor. Then she looked directly at me and said, "Some women want the title of mother without doing the work." The room went silent. My daughter stopped opening presents. My ex looked away. And nobody said a word. I thought that would be the most humiliating moment of the day. I was wrong. Because 10 minutes later, my daughter walked across the room carrying a sealed envelope. She handed it to my ex's new wife, then said, "Dad told me to give this to you if you ever said that about Mom again." Nobody knew that letter existed. Not me. Not his wife. Not even his parents. By the time she finished reading the first page, she wasn't looking at me anymore. She was staring at my ex-husband. The birthday party wasn't about me. It was about a secret he'd been hiding for 4 years. My name is Nora Whitaker. And this is what happened. My daughter Ava turned 11 on a Saturday. I spent months planning her birthday. Nothing extravagant. Just friends, family, cake, music. The kind of celebration she deserved. After a difficult year. I didn't know it yet. Someone else had arrived with a different plan. My ex-husband's wife, Melanie, showed up 20 minutes late. Not unusual. Melanie treated every event like a stage entrance. The second she walked in, she started evaluating everything. The decorations, the food, the guest list. Me. That was my first warning. At first she was polite. Too polite. The dangerous kind. Then she smiled and said, "Wow, Nora, I wasn't expecting this." Because that wasn't a compliment, it was a setup, and I could already feel it coming. Melanie never insulted people privately. She preferred audiences. The bigger the audience, the better. Which explained why she waited until almost everyone arrived. Then she started talking. Loudly. For the last 3 years, Melanie had become something interesting, an expert. At least according to Melanie. Parenting advice, school advice, discipline advice. Everything. Despite never raising a child herself. That mattered later. A lot later. The first shot was subtle. She laughed and said, "Ava spends so much time at our house now." Because technically true, but incomplete. Very incomplete. And incomplete truths usually hide something. Then she added, "Children need stability." The room shifted. Adults exchanged looks. Because everyone knew exactly who she was talking about. Me. Not directly, but definitely me. Then Melanie finally said it. Loud enough for everyone. Clear enough for everyone. Cruel enough for everyone. Some women shouldn't be mothers. Silence. Pure silence. Ava froze beside the cake table. My stomach dropped. The party wasn't fun anymore. I looked at my ex-husband, Grant. Waiting. Hoping. Anything. A correction. A defense. A boundary. Instead, he stared at the floor. Because guilty people often stay quiet. And I didn't know why yet. Then something happened. Nobody expected. Ava calmly walked away from the gift table. Reached into her backpack. Pulled out a sealed envelope. Then crossed the room. Straight toward Melanie. My daughter handed it to her and said, "Dad told me this was for you if you ever blame Mom again." Melanie smiled. At first. Then she opened the envelope. And after reading the first sentence, her smile disappeared. Completely. That changed everything. Melanie read the first line, then stopped breathing. Her hand tightened around the paper. Because one sentence had erased all her confidence. Grant finally looked up. His face went pale. And that was when I realized he knew exactly what was inside. Ava stood very still. Too still. For an 11-year-old. That bothered me. Because children should not have to carry adult secrets. But clearly, Someone had trusted her with this one, and judging by Grant's face, he regretted it already. Melanie whispered, "What is this?" Grant didn't answer, so she read the first line out loud. "If Melanie ever calls Nora unfit, show her this." The room froze again. Every eye moved to Grant. Melanie wasn't performing anymore. Grant rubbed his face, then said, "Not here." Wrong answer. Always wrong answer, because not here usually means, yes, it's true, just don't expose me publicly. Melanie turned toward him. "What did you do? Interesting?" Not, "What is this? What did you do?" 4 years ago, I missed Ava's school recital. That became Melanie's favorite weapon. She doesn't show up. She forgets important things. She chooses work over her child. But that night, I wasn't working. I was in the hospital. And Grant knew. Inside the envelope was a copy of my discharge form. Date, time, emergency admission, severe allergic reaction. I almost stopped breathing that night. Literally. Grant had driven me there, then told everyone I forgot Ava's recital. That lie followed me for 4 years. Melanie looked at the hospital paper, then at Grant, then at me. Her expression changed. Not sympathy. Shock. Because her entire argument against me had been built on that night. One night. One lie. And now she knew. Grant finally spoke. I panicked. Men love that word. Panic. As if panic writes a 4-year smear campaign. As if panic explains silence. As if panic makes a mother look neglectful to her own child. No. This wasn't panic. This was preservation. If someone let you be blamed for something they knew wasn't true, comment, say the truth. Then Ava said softly, "I remember Dad crying in the car." Everyone turned. Grant closed his eyes. Ava continued. He said if people knew Mom was sick, Grandma would blame him. Because now Grant's mother had entered the story, and she wasn't even at the party yet. Melanie flipped to the second page. Her hands were shaking now. Then she read the next line. I let my mother call Nora careless because I was ashamed. Silence. Pure silence. Grant sat down slowly. The secret wasn't just about me. It was about his family. Nobody moved. Nobody spoke. Melanie slowly turned to the third page, because by now she already knew Grant had lied, but she still didn't know why. Then she started reading, and her face immediately changed. The document wasn't medical. It was legal. A custody mediation summary. 4 years old. I recognized it instantly, because I cried through most of it. Then I saw the highlighted sentence. Mother voluntarily reduced custody time during treatment period. Because one word changed everything. Voluntarily. I looked at Ava, then back at the document. Because that wasn't the whole truth. I reduced custody temporarily, for 6 weeks. Only 6 weeks. Because doctors suspected an autoimmune condition. I wanted answers. I wanted stability. I wanted to protect my daughter. Instead, someone turned it into abandonment. Then Melanie looked directly at Grant. She didn't lose custody. Silence. Because for years Grant had told everyone something different. Not technically, not directly, just carefully, strategically. Enough to create assumptions. And assumptions did the rest. Over time, people stopped asking questions, because lies rarely spread alone. They travel with silence. And Grant stayed silent every time someone implied I was unreliable. Every time. Which made the lie stronger. Year after year. Then Ava surprised everyone. She said, I found the envelope last year. My stomach dropped. Because I didn't know that. Nobody did. Then she looked at Grant and added, You forgot it in your desk. Grant's secret almost exposed itself long before today. Melanie stared at the envelope, then asked the obvious question. If this proves she's a good mother, why keep it? Best question all day, and judging by Grant's face, he didn't want to answer. Then he finally said it, quietly, almost whispering, "Because my mother wouldn't forgive me." Silence. This wasn't about me anymore. It was about fear. Grant spent years protecting his mother's opinion, at my expense, and at Ava's expense too. Then the front door opened. Perfect timing. Worst timing. Grant's mother, Valerie, walked inside carrying a gift bag, smiling, completely unaware, because she was about to walk straight into her own storm. Before anyone could stop her, Melanie flipped to the final page, then read the last paragraph aloud. The room went silent instantly, because it wasn't written by me. It wasn't written by Grant. It was written by Ava's therapist, and one sentence changed everything. The child's primary emotional security figure is her mother. Valerie froze in the doorway, gift bag still in her hand. The woman who spent 4 years calling me unfit had entered the conversation at exactly the wrong moment. Valerie stood frozen near the front door, gift bag in hand, therapist report on the table, 20 people staring at her. Because for years she'd controlled every conversation. Now she couldn't control this one. Then she looked at Grant and asked, "What is this?" Nobody answered. Valerie grabbed the papers, started reading, fast, then slower, then much slower, because she wasn't finding what she expected. She expected accusations against me. Instead, she kept finding praise. For me. And criticism of everyone else. That changed everything. Then Melanie found another page, folded between the documents, old email printout, 4 years old, because I had never seen it before. Then she started reading, and Grant immediately stood up. Bad sign. Very bad sign. The email came from Grant. To his mother. Subject line, "Please stop saying that about Nora." Valerie's face changed instantly. Her favorite story had a problem. Grant knew she was lying, and told her to stop. Years ago. Then Melanie flipped to the next page. Valerie's reply. Because nobody expected there to be a reply. Then she read it aloud. "People believe what they see. Let them." The room went silent. Because now everyone understood. This wasn't a misunderstanding. It was a strategy. I looked at my daughter, standing quietly beside the cake. Because while adults were exposing each other, Ava looked relieved. Actually relieved. As if she'd been carrying something heavy. For years. I realized who suffered most from all this. Then something unexpected happened. Melanie looked at me. Not with judgment. Not with superiority. Just confusion. Then she quietly asked, "Why didn't you tell anyone?" Fair question. Very fair. The answer hurt. I smiled sadly. Then said, "Because every time I tried, someone called me dramatic." Silence. Because several relatives immediately looked down. Guilt. Real guilt. They remembered. They remembered choosing the easier story. Then Ava surprised everyone again. She pulled another folded paper from her backpack. Another one. Because apparently the envelope wasn't the only thing she'd found. Then she handed it directly to Valerie. It wasn't a letter. It was a photocopied journal entry. Written by Grant. Years ago. One sentence highlighted. "Nora is a better parent than I'll ever be, but Mom won't let me say that out loud." Boom. Valerie sat down immediately. The lie she'd built over 4 years wasn't collapsing. It was being buried. And for the first time in a very long time, she had nowhere to hide. Nobody spoke. Not for several seconds. Valerie sat frozen in her chair. Grant stared at the floor. Melanie held the journal page, and my daughter stood beside me. Because for years I'd imagined defending myself. I never imagined the truth would defend me instead. Then Valerie did what she always did. She looked for control. Then she said, "Grant was emotional when he wrote that." Because when evidence appears, excuses usually follow. Then Melanie laughed. Actually laughed. Not a happy laugh. A shocked one. Valerie lost her last ally. Melanie looked directly at Valerie, then asked, "How many times did you tell me Nora was unstable?" Silence, then. "How many times?" Nobody answered, because everyone knew. Too many. For too long. Without proof. Without evidence. Without truth. Then something unexpected happened. Grant's aunt spoke up. Then a cousin. Then another relative. Because once one person challenges a lie, others often find their courage. Then Aunt Carol said, "I always thought something felt off." Valerie wasn't controlling the room anymore. The room was judging her. Then Grant stood up. Slowly. Nervously. Then looked at me. For the first time all day. And said, "I failed you." Silence. Pure silence. Because that wasn't enough. Not even close. But it was the first honest thing he'd said in years. Then Ava stepped forward. My heart stopped. This wasn't about adults anymore. It was about her. Then she looked at Valerie and quietly said, "You made me think Mom wasn't good enough." Valerie started crying. Real tears. Nobody rushed to comfort her. The birthday party was basically over. Cake untouched. Presents forgotten. Everything changed. Then Ava walked to the gift table, picked up one final gift bag, and handed it to me. Because I hadn't seen that gift before. Then she smiled and said, "It's from me." Inside was a small framed photo, just me and Ava, at the beach, 3 summers earlier. On the back she'd written, "Thank you for never leaving." That did it. After everything, after years of accusations, years of whispers, years of judgment, that single sentence mattered more than any apology. If you've ever had a child see the truth even when adults tried to hide it, subscribe and comment. They know who loves them. 6 months later, everything looked different. Valerie rarely attended family events. Melanie apologized. More than once. Grant started therapy. And for the first time, he stopped letting his mother speak for him. Because consequences succeed where arguments fail. Every time. A few weeks ago, Ava asked me something. We were sitting in the kitchen, just us. Then she smiled and said, "Mom, do you know why I gave Melanie the envelope?" I thought I did. I was wrong. Then Ava said, "Because I was tired of grown-ups lying about you. Simple. Honest. Perfect." That birthday started with someone calling me an unfit mother. It ended with the only opinion that truly mattered. My daughter's. And when I look back now, I don't remember Valerie's insult. I don't remember the whispers. I don't even remember the humiliation. I remember a little girl carrying a sealed envelope across a room full of adults, and deciding she was done letting other people tell her who her mother was.